In the waters of Lake Superior, just north of Duluth, Minnesota, a group of 6 swimmers participated in a relay covering 48 miles, and they did it without wetsuits. Minnesota Public Radio's Dan Crocker reported on the story.
They really said it was an amazing experience, but also a little disconcerting because the big part of the reason why they did this swim was to raise awareness about just how fast the water temperatures are rising in Lake Superior. 20, 50 years ago, it would have been a lot tougher to find a day when the weather would have accommodated a swim like this.
Since 1998, the water temperature of Lake Superior has risen by 5 degrees. That makes Lake Superior the fastest warming lake on planet Earth.
It only takes a couple of degrees of warmer surface air temperature in the winter to really have a big impact on less ice cover. So let's say it's 4 or 5 degrees warmer in the winter. That can result in a really sharp reduction in ice cover, which in turn can really lead to markedly warmer water temperature in the summer.
Those warming waters can and will have an impact on the Great Lakes ecosystem.
You know, Lake Superior is famously cold and clear, but over the last decade or so, there have been several instances where toxic algae blooms have been sighted on the south shore of Lake Superior. That's really been associated with these warmer surface water temperatures that we've seen. That obviously can have human health impacts. A lot of the fish in Lake Superior are obviously adapted to cold water. Lake herring is one, and there have been studies that have shown that as the water has warmed, and especially as ice cover has decreased, that has had impacts on the reproduction rates of lake herring.
As years go by and water temperatures continue to rise, we can expect more changes to come.
Trends clearly indicate that water is going to continue to get warmer in Lake Superior. But I do want to stress that just because in general the water is getting warmer, swims like this without wetsuits are going to be more and more feasible. That doesn't mean there aren't going to still be very cold days in the lake and very cold years in the lake when, there's a lot of ice cover in the winter and subsequently colder water in the summer. There's also a phenomenon called upwelling, where the warm surface water gets pushed out by winds and the cold water underneath comes up to the top. So that's these days where suddenly the lake can shift from being in the 60s to being in the 40s. And those are days you don't want to be swimming without a wetsuit. I think events like this can really raise awareness about how quickly things are changing, how just the impact that humans are having on these fragile ecosystems, and the real impacts that they can have on fish, on the water quality, and those things that are really important to folks who live around the Great Lakes.